Hey RATBAGGERS, it's Jay today with Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance first hands-on, a little bit of a preview, highlighting some of the things you'll be doing and what I think of the early stages of the game so far. Of course, it is the sequel to one of the biggest selling games of that year, back about 6 years ago now, and it is following on and continuing the story of Henry as he's rise from basically peasant through to helping out nobles to maybe seek peace or maybe war in Bohemia. The game is a deep sandbox with complex systems at times and lots of varied combat and a beautiful world to explore, giving us really a good impression of what Bohemia may have been like in the 15th century. You'll definitely need to clear your decks with some time to really get behind it and clear it out with tons of main mission and side quests and stuff. So let's go into the video with my first impressions. So the game actually starts with you as Godwin, one of the recurring characters from the first game, actually helping to defend against some onslaught of enemies at the gate. Giving you a quick little guide and tutorial to a couple of the things that you need to know, especially things like using a crossbow and maybe a little bit of swordplay. The combat system is very much unchanged from the first. Directional swinging of your blade and your weapons is paramount, and how you block, riposte and basically try and stun enemies to get more hits in is really key. I was hoping maybe for a simpler combat system, but it seems to have been refined somewhat from the first game. But to be brutally honest, if you didn't like the combat system from the first game, it's not going to be unchanged enough for you for the second. So a learning curve for sure with the combat. Something I really loved when I first set foot in the first few hours is the world itself. It's absolutely gorgeous. The vistas, the forests, the rock-strewn valleys, as well as, of course, the villages that we'll be exploring, just really gorgeous. Load of detail as well with creatures and stuff. Definitely an improvement on the first. The world does feel relatively alive as you explore when you hear the birds and the humming of maybe fireflies and more. Of course, dialogue's going to be a big part of the game, again, as it was in the first. Making decisions and how you answer will gain you reputation or decrease your reputation with whoever you're talking to. And much like the first one, your appearance matters. If you look like something that's just scraped off the bottom of a pig's hoof, then no one's really going to be talking to you or respecting you. But if you seem to have the nobility clothing and giving yourself some airs and graces, you might stand a better chance of convincing people to go along with whatever it is you want. Pets make a return. Yes, you can have your own special doggo, and I think there are multiple ones that you'll be able to unlock or find as you play through. They can help you hunt, they can help you defend as well, so it's a good idea to make sure you're always friendly with them. The sequel's got a ton more, I would say, intros and tutorials to guide you through the game. It is very complex. There is a huge amount of systems at play here, and it definitely takes a while to get your head around everything. It's nothing really you might not have seen in other RPGs, but when it's combined all together, it can feel a bit overwhelming at first. You've got a ton of different armor slots and then various weapons, and you can be able to upgrade and get yourself more room. Also, obviously, you've got the stats where you can increase and learn skills over time, and then also give yourself extra maybe abilities as you progress. Every action you do is going to contribute some way or somehow to hopefully leveling up and getting yourself a perk point. There's 1,000,001 different stats for your armor and weapons, so making sure you're getting the right kind of fit and build and being able to swap out between different outfits on the fly is really important. A lot of the time, your classic nobility gear is going to help in conversations. Then you'll obviously be switching to armor and maybe something a bit more heavy duty to take on enemies, or go down the stealthy route with various different clothing, giving you more abilities to sneak in bushes and maybe take down enemies. As I mentioned with the combat, you do obviously learn the basics, and there's various different sword masters or people that will want to teach you more moves. In fact, there's a series of combos that you can unlock by finding the right type of people to teach you them. I have to admit, I am yearning for maybe a simpler way to play the game. It's definitely got a skill level, and there's nothing wrong in having a game that requires you to really have a good input and a good understanding of something to succeed. It's improved somewhat from the first one for sure. I could definitely tell a few more parries and tells from enemies swinging a little bit easier. But the minute you start having to encounter more than one enemy, it's going to be more of a challenge. When you combine this with all the other systems at play and everything else that's going on, it can be a bit disheartening actually getting into combat, and I avoided it almost as much as I could. And that's a style of play that this game allows you to do. You could focus on diplomacy by increasing your skills, hopefully, in bartering and communication. or lean more heavily into things like stealth and being able to take down enemies with hopefully not too much fuss. When this works, you feel like you're playing a Assassin's Creed or Hitman game, being stealthily silent, taking bodies away to hopefully rob them or absolutely put them down so they can't have any chance of coming back into the fight later. But for sure, there are some elements where you're still going to need to improve your skills, otherwise you will just have a failed attempt, and this can cause all sorts of chaos, meaning you'll have to run away. And that's another thing that this game really tries and maybe gets across to you. If you're having a bad time, maybe run away and fight again another day. It's very easy to die if you don't have your weapons out to defend yourself or against multiple enemies that are just too strong. So combat aside, other daily activities you'll be partaking in is making yourself better pulses and potions to hopefully heal or give you more buffs. Again, all returning features from the first game, and really does lean into this simulation aspect, that you'll literally be grabbing the handfuls of herbs to put inside your pot. You'll be lowering it down correctly to get it on the boil, taking good notice of the actual recipes that you've unlocked rather than just simply one button pressing and crafting something out of your inventory. People that really love this kind of deep simulation, I think it's going to be music to their ears, and this extends a whole variety of different activities you'll be doing, whether it's repairing your swords or gear or by sharpening them so that you can save a little bit on costs every time you come across a sharpening stone. Some of these are really cool, they are. I do feel like a lot of them though, combined together, does make it a little bit tedious at times having to go through something like this just to get something pretty basic. As I said, you really got to love a lot of these simulation effects, or just rely on maybe robbing and getting as much coin as possible to buy yourself new gear or the resources you might need. In my first few hours of the game, I couldn't afford a horse, so I was lugging it around on foot, and the world is massive. There is an overhead map where you can fast travel, and it's just again like the same of the original, that you can come across encounters sometimes when fast travelling that might stop you in your progress. But I do absolutely love the little graphics as you run around on the map, going from point to point at certain fast travel points that you've already uncovered. This helps a lot, especially if you've got to backtrack quite a bit between places. And yeah, following the story of where or what you're doing, effectively going to a lord and trying to convince him to join your cause. Don't really want to go in too much of the spoiler territory with the story and everything else. But along the way you come in some problems and you basically have to start almost from scratch, completing side quests if you want or trying to head for the main story. Seemingly is a good selection of maybe love interests in the game, although I never really got too far in the first few hours. And for sure, the story is probably the game's strongest part. It's really what draws you in, getting to know some of the characters, your friends, and Henry's persona that you're going to shape. There isn't too many more repercussions though for things, like there is no renegade way to play the game. You simply accrue good reputation with various people, whether it's going to be innkeepers, farmers and more by talking to them respectfully and hopefully giving the right answer, or you decrease reputation, meaning that it might be a bit harder to get what you want from them later, whether it's trading or certain other things. Maybe it just hasn't presented itself enough in some of the big choices that you'll no doubt have to make with some of the main characters. But yeah, it just didn't really seem to matter too much, other than just being obviously a bit of a penalisation for being a bit uncouth or rapid or quick. So poring over the answers that you get from NPCs and story, making sure you understand the conversation that's going on so you can give the right answer is pretty important. There are so many nuanced systems in this game, and you could spend a whole ton of time becoming a master thief and breaking into every house that you come across, stealing as much goods and hopefully finding a fence to sell it to. More noble and follow in the footsteps of Henry and his rise through the ranks. Or just go off and explore the beautiful, gorgeous countryside. I admit I am playing on PC, so on a 3090 graphics card. So a couple generations down now, but really had a great time. Like with VSync on, no screen tears, no stuttering, no slowdown or frame rates. And the game did run absolutely smooth, not a single crash. So really am impressed. Obviously it's been a long time since the first one came out, and they were a small, fairly small studio when they made it. They've obviously been able to grow and expand their story. I'm guessing this is probably like a 60 to 80 hour odyssey at least. I spent only about first 6 hours or so in the game, and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of what it's actually going to offer. I'm going to have a full review and maybe a couple of guides or so. You'll see them after the embargo date releases on the release date. But for sure, I can see the love that's been put into this game. And for people that like the first one, I can't see any way this could be flubbed. It absolutely looks like you're going to enjoy this just as much. For players that have never heard about the game so much, then this is going to be a really deep, like I said, story-led RPG, giving you a multitude of ways to play the game however style you want. It does take time to get used to some of the systems, and you really do need to invest and pay attention to the tutorials. So as long as you do that, I think you're going to have a great time. Might expand a little bit on my first impressions in more of a review style format, hopefully in a few days. And as I said, look out for maybe a few guides for me as well. Let me know what you think about Kingdom Come Deliverance. Have you played the original? Are you been hyped and excited for this one? Till next time, Ratbags, I'll catch you later.